The movie Lawnmower Man practically begged to be made into a computer game. Based on an intriguing sci-fi premise which had nothing to do with Stephen King's short story, the movie featured dazzling computer-generated graphics, sinister government plots, of course, and breathtaking sequences of the characters' adventures in the virtual world of cyberspace. There are many words I could use to describe Lawnmower Man the game, but dazzling and breathtaking are not among them. In fact, the most honest of them cannot be included in a family-oriented publication. This is your character, Dr. Angelo, as he appears once Cyberjoke sucks him into his virtual domain. Fans of the movie may notice that this representation of Dr. Angelo looks nothing like Pierce Brosnan. In fact, very little in this game resembles the movie very closely. People stunned by the beautiful special effects of the movie are bound to be shocked by the extremely poor quality of the graphics found in this game. This screenshot is as good as it gets. It only goes downhill from there. After watching several seconds of uninteresting intro footage, the game dumps you into cyberspace. You find yourself standing on what looks like a conveyor belt, and you're being chased by Cyberjobe's lawnmower, Big Red. Without input from you, your character begins running down the belt. Various obstacles must be either jumped or slid under. The computer, however, apparently doesn't trust your poor human instincts to make these decisions. A pleasant female voice tells you when to jump and when to duck. Pressing the appropriate key when prompted will guide you safely through this first level. Don't worry about hitting the key exactly when the computer says to. Split-second timing is apparently not a requirement of this game. After completing each level, you are rewarded with a brief clip from the movie. These movie clips are completely gratuitous, having nothing whatsoever to do with gameplay. It seems they were inserted here just to allow the marketing team to use the term multimedia when describing the game. The quality of these video segments is quite poor, worse than some porno CDs I've seen, and that says a lot. The clips are grainy, have extremely poor color, and have had a pseudo-psychedelic delay effect added to the soundtrack, which makes much of the dialogue indecipherable to anyone who hasn't seen the movie several times. After the video clip is finished, Dr. Angelo morphs into a sort of cyber glider to fly through a tunnel. This sequence is every bit as interactive and challenging as the first. Your glider centers itself automatically in the tunnel, and that female voice will once again guide you through everything you have to do. Again, timing is not a factor, as the computer will ignore an early key press. Twice in this sequence, you'll have to shoot gates that threaten to snap shut on you. Again, the computer will tell you what to do when, and any over-anxious shots will simply be ignored. Each time you respond correctly to a turn in the tunnel, the view automatically switches to an external camera to give you a view of yourself flying through the tunnel. This would be a nice touch if the graphics weren't so terrible. Your reward for the second round of pushing buttons like a rat getting food is another bad video clip. This one shows a bit of the movie sequences in which Job and Peter play a virtual reality game. In it, Job and Peter race across a dangerous virtual landscape in high-powered cyber gliders. This is obviously where the game designers got the idea for the sequence that was just completed. The problem is, this video sequence of Job and Peter's game looks like much more fun than the glider ride you just took. It's as if the programmers put the clip in to say, well, we were going to give you a fast-paced game sequence like this into the CD-ROM, but then we just decided to make things easier on you. Thanks a lot, guys. Once you morph back into humanoid form, you find yourself walking down a hallway, a task the overambitious computer handles for you. Your progress is halted when you encounter a locked door. To open the door, you must solve the puzzle. In each column of 4 symbols, there is one that doesn't belong, and you must select the correct one for each of the 4 columns. Although vaguely reminiscent of the IQ tests I took in grade school, this isn't exactly what I'd call recreation, and people who don't like puzzle games aren't likely to be converted by this. And puzzle game fans are bound to find this sort of puzzle an insult to their intelligence. If you get the door puzzle wrong, the floating form of the director of the shop will appear and menace you. Because this is a multimedia experience, he will mutter a line of movie dialogue at you. These lines don't really fit into the game context and don't contain any clues to the puzzle, so don't try reading any hidden meanings into them. Again, that cheesy delay effect is used, and even though I've seen the movie many times, I found myself straining to decipher these strange sound bites. By the way, if you fail the puzzle 3 times, the director will draw an end to the 1 life you get in this game. Remember that handheld game called Simon, where you had to play back a tune by pressing the color pads in the correct number? Well, it seems our resourceful game designers remember, and fairly recently too. The next challenge involves you replaying a tune on this device just like Simon. The tune is only made up of 4 notes, so it's not exactly something an 8-year-old would have a hard time with. Once in a while, though, the program will screw up and play back the first 2 or 3 notes only by flashing their light very quickly and giving the player no audio clue whatsoever. When a puzzle is only difficult when the program messes it up, you know you're playing a bad game. As you are entering the tune, each pad will light and sound off as you press it. Although you have heard yourself play the tune back, the designers thought you'd like to see and hear yourself do it again. This screen shifts to this overhead view and replays Dr. Angelo playing this stupid 4-tone tune again. This screen cannot be bypassed, nor is it a smoothly flowing replay of your actions. Each time you press a pad, the program loads that scene from the CD. Even though I have a double-speed CD-ROM drive and had installed 20 megabytes of the game data onto my hard drive, each pad press took at least a second to read from the CD, and quite often the audio was distorted as well. If anyone out there knows what this scene is for, aside from filling up space on the CD, I wish they'd tell me. Getting by the Simon puzzle treats you to yet another low-res video clip, and then you face your next challenge, getting across the circuit board. As you can see from this shot, there are 3 paths across the board, 2 of which will lead Dr. Angelo to an electrical death. Yes, the game is finally going to let you make a decision about where to go on your own. Don't spend too much time thinking, though, for death is the penalty for indecisiveness. Pressing the forward, left, and right arrow keys will allow you to get a better view of the circuit board. You must determine which path leads to the correct portal on the other side of the board. The problem is, it looks like any of the 3 pathways could lead to victory. I found it impossible to reason out which path to take in the short time the game allows, and ended up finally beating this puzzle simply by guessing and playing the odds. This may be okay for a gambling game, but in this context, it did nothing to impress me. Once you've made your choice of paths by turning in the appropriate direction and pressing the space bar, Dr. Angelo flies around the board for upwards of 15 seconds. Again, this would be a nice touch in a game with impressive, or at least decent, graphics. Here, however, it's only another irritating cutscene in a game filled with irritating cutscenes. Like the overhead replay at the Simon panel, there is no way to bypass this gratuitous little fight to find out whether you are going to live or die. If you're still interested in playing the game at this point, you'll be confronted with a series of moving pedestals which you must cross. Don't expect any more interactivity here than anywhere else in the game, though. That friendly little computer voice once again pipes up like an overprotective mother leading her hapless child through traffic. Instead of interacting with this computer game, you are manipulated by it, and I, for one, found no enjoyment in that experience. If you follow the computer's instructions, you should have no trouble making it past the pedestals. The last platform you jump transports you to a reincarnation of the first level, in which you must again flee from Big Red and jump and dodge various highly pixelated things that want to kill you. This time, however, the computer offers no prompting on when and where to jump and duck. You might think this is a blessing, but think again. What could have been a good, challenging arcade sequence is ruined by horribly mangled graphics and the programmer's love of cinematic camera angles. Your character blends in so well with his surroundings that it's remarkably difficult to keep track of him. Also, with nearly every jump or slide you complete, the camera changes to a different angle, some of which do not exactly give you the best view of what's in front of you. After being dragged through many scenes which I found no fun at all, this poorly realized scenario was the piece of dung that broke this camel's back. At this point, the Lawnmower Man and I parted company. Now I know how well I'd stand up under torture. I still find it hard to believe that a game that looks so good in its press sheets could be so bad. The graphics that I had seen on the press releases and on the game's box look fantastic, but when blown up to full screen size, they become horribly pixelated and downright ugly. The Lawnmower Man has easily the worst graphics of any CD-ROM game I've ever seen, and the sound and music quality isn't any better than an average floppy game. Sales Curve Interactive had the background and material to make a mind-blowing game, but what they've delivered is a dismal embarrassment. To add to the pain, there is no way of saving your progress, not even via passwords. This means that finishing the game would take such a huge amount of repetition that very few people are ever likely to see what the final levels of Lawnmower Man are like. Do yourself a favor and save your money until some real interactive entertainment finds its way to the market. Your CD-ROM was never meant for a game like this.